Now joined by Paul Antonopoulos, deputy editor at Al-Masdar News. Paul, thanks so much for joining us here on RT International. So, following today's gains made by government forces, we've heard the reports that the rebels have proposed a 5-day ceasefire in the city. Do you think that such a ceasefire can be implemented and, most importantly, abided by?
Well, the 5-day truce is too little too late for the jihadist militants when considering that Russia has consistently looked for a diplomatic solution for the Aleppo battle. In fact, the Syrian war as a whole. As recently as a few days ago, these same militant factions vowed that they would not surrender. So if they are not to surrender, then what is the purpose of a truce? A truce can only help the jihadist forces to reorganize, but unfortunately for them, their fate is already sealed in the battle for Aleppo. Now, it seems they legitimately want to be transferred away from Aleppo city and into the province's northern countryside. We need to remember this is the same countryside that is currently fighting ISIS and Kurdish-led forces. The northern countryside is also the site of a massive three-way battle between Kurdish forces, ISIS and Turkish-backed forces. On top, you have the Syrian Arab army trying to liberate the town of Al-Bab from ISIS, which is also being sought after by the other two warring parties. So therefore, there is no real purpose to this truce or the proposed truce from the militant forces.
We've seen statements from various Western analysts recently, including the ones from the U.S., that the recent government forces gains would undermine the West's hopes of opposition forces gaining power in Syria. What's your take on that?
Well, what the Western mainstream media analysts and politicians say about the situation in Aleppo cannot be trusted. We need to remember at the beginning of the massive offensive against the jihadists held eastern Aleppo, they seemed to always give a figure of 250,000 trapped civilians. It was continually repeated. However, now that more than 85% of East Aleppo has been liberated, what we know is that only 30,000 civilians have entered displacement camps organized by Syrian, Russian and Kurdish authorities. And in the remaining 20 to 15% of the jihadists-held Aleppo, there are 10,000 trapped civilians. This is a huge discrepancy from the propaganda statistics given by supposed experts in Syria. Therefore, we really need to question any sort of rhetoric that comes out of the West.
Well, today, a Russian colonel died from wounds he received during rebel shelling on Monday. And the 2 Russian paramedics have also been killed in an attack on a mobile hospital a couple of days ago. However, we haven't seen much condemnation of this attack. Why do you think that is?
Well, this comes from what I said earlier. There just seems to be a complete ignorance or dare I say, a complete blockage of any sort of rhetoric that goes against the supposed moderate rebels. We know this is only a myth and that really they're hardline in their views. Now, why the West would want to cover that? Well, I guess with Obama outgoing, it's just to cover the consistent rhetoric over the last 5 or 6 years that there's a legitimate moderate force.
All right, Paul Antonopoulos, deputy editor at Al-Masdar News. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you.